Tonight, danger off the coast. As Hurricane Bill moves in, warnings go out to summer swimmers along the eastern United States about potentially deadly currents. I'm Russ Mitchell. Also tonight, new signs of a turnaround in the housing market. A big jump in sales helps send stock prices sharply higher. This is what the Marines of Echo Company call home. A look at life in some of the hardest and most dangerous conditions on Earth. And how to succeed in business without really charging your customers a dime. Steve Hartman's Assignment America.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening. Katie is off tonight. A lot of weekend plans are about to be ruined up and down the Atlantic coast, all because of a storm that's going to stay hundreds of miles offshore. Hurricane Bill has been downgraded from a Category 4 to a Category 2. Forecasters expect it to turn northeast and pass between Bermuda and the U.S. in the next few days. But a hurricane does not have to score a direct hit to cause trouble. In this case, flooding, rough waves, and rip currents along the East Coast could be on the way. Here's Kelly Wallace.
For millions of East Coast beachgoers like these at Rockaway Beach on the edge of New York City, this is as close as they're going to get to the water this weekend.
You know about the no swimming today, right?
Swimming banned at beaches along much of the East Coast due to Hurricane Bill's might.
We're all just, biting our bottom lips and hoping it goes away.
Waves as high as 14 feet are expected along the Carolina coast, as high as 23 feet off Massachusetts. And all over the eastern seaboard, warnings of rip currents, the biggest danger to swimmers, killing nearly 100 people every year and forcing 20,000 rescues.
One reason that these rip currents and the wave action is going to be so extreme along the East Coast is because of how strong the hurricane has been the last couple of days.
A hurricane over water generates powerful waves that help form rip currents, narrow, fast-moving channels of water that flow away from the shore and pull swimmers out to sea. They usually develop at low spots like sandbars. If caught in one, it's best to swim parallel to the shore out of the narrow current. Try to swim directly toward land, and it's a losing battle.
The biggest mistake people make is when they try to swim back in.
The hurricane isn't expected to directly hit the U.S., but is menacing Bermuda. It has been downgraded from a Category 4 to a Category 2 with winds at 105 miles per hour. However, the threat from rip currents will intensify from Florida to Maine this weekend.
Just because the hurricane is weakened to a Category 2 now does not mean that all of that wave energy that was produced when Bill was a Category 4 nearly 48 hours ago is just going to go away.
Besides inconveniencing millions of beachgoers this weekend, Bill's likely to be costly. Estimates are he'll cause millions of dollars in erosion damage all along the coast. Kelly Wallace, CBS News, New York.
Also this evening, they are counting the damage in Ontario, Canada, after a tornado last night killed an 11-year-old boy and injured several others at a summer camp. Another twister touched down in the town of Vaughan, just north of Toronto, damaging several buildings. There were no serious injuries there. The mayor said it was the worst powerful storm she has seen in some 40 years. In this country, with Americans already worried about sky-high deficits, the White House is now estimating they will soar even more. It has raised its projection for red ink over the next 10 years by $2 trillion for a total deficit of more than $9 trillion. The administration blames the economic downturn, saying it turned out to be worse than first thought. But Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke said today prospects are good for an economic turnaround, and there are signs of it in the housing market, with used home sales up for the fourth straight month, posting the biggest monthly gain in at least 10 years. All this gave Wall Street a big boost today. The Dow closed above 9,500 for the first time since Election Day. Ben Tracy now on what's driving up home sales.
All right, we're ready.
Eno Choi never imagined he could live in this neighborhood outside of San Francisco. Now he's the proud owner of a 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot home. He was able to buy it thanks to falling prices, low interest rates, and a government tax credit of $8,000.
I paid less than half of the price what the previous owner paid.
The previous owner paid $673,000. Choi paid about half, $338,000. Bargain basement sales like this are bringing new life to hard-hit cities such as Mountain House, California. Last year, it took 80 days to sell a house. Now it's just 21. Nationwide, the 7% jump in home sales marked the 4th straight month sales are up. The last time this many homes sold was August of 2007.
I wouldn't be standing up and cheering yet, but things are better than they were 6 months ago. There's no question about that.
Good for buyers, but many are selling at a loss. In fact, nationwide, the median single-family home price was just $178,000 in July, down 14.6% from a year ago.
I think we're going to stay kind of where we are now in terms of prices for the next couple of years.
That's because experts warn another wave of foreclosures could hit the market. These tied to people losing their jobs and to interest rates rising on risky home loans.
Sunday morning work for you to do the walkthrough?
But realtor Tanarsha Brown is just glad to see bidding wars back, even if the once high prices are not.
I had a home I put on the market Wednesday night, 10 p.m. By Thursday morning, 15 phone calls. By Sunday, 10 offers on the property.
Many buyers are rushing into the market before the federal tax credit for first-time home buyers expires in November. Eno Choi says that $8,000 helped get him in the market, and he isn't worried about losing his investment.
If it is not the bottom, it is near bottom. Then if it goes down, it's not going to free fall anymore.
The real estate industry obviously would love to see this sales momentum continue, so it's currently lobbying Congress to extend that $8,000 federal tax credit beyond November. Russ?
Ben Tracy in Los Angeles, thank you very much. Relatives of the 270 people killed in the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 said today they will be protesting here in New York next month. They are furious that the Libyan agent convicted in the terror attack was released from a Scottish prison yesterday and sent home to a hero's welcome. President Obama had more to say about that today, as senior White House correspondent Bill Plant reports.
The triumphant reception for the Lockerbie bomber was a direct rebuff to President Obama, who had asked that Libya place him under house arrest. And the president wasn't pleased.
What about the hero's welcome in Libya, sir?
I think it was highly objectionable.
The president's spokesman condemned al-Megrahi's welcome home, but said nothing about its effect on U.S.-Libya relations.
The images that we saw in Libya yesterday were outrageous and disgusting. We communicated with the Libyan government, and we continue to watch what they do in the days going forward.
The president has already drawn criticism for just shaking hands with some of the world's unsavory strongmen, including Libya's Gaddafi, Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, and Nicaragua's Daniel Ortega. It's an approach some foreign policy experts think may be counterproductive.
I think there is a danger of weakness, not just that he'll look weak to the American people, but that these other regimes will think here's someone we can take advantage of.
But CBS News consultant Juan Zarate says that when it comes to Libya, Mr. Obama is in a tough spot.
He's trying to walk a fine line between appearing soft and not damaging the relationship that is starting to bud with Libya, which is important in North Africa.
But those who lost family members in the Lockerbie bombing see the U.S. relationship with Libya very differently.
This whole thing, this whole release is absolutely appalling. It's a shameful, shameful thing. And it's really just part of a process of appeasing Gaddafi.
Libya's leader has never been to the United States, but he's coming for the first time next month to address the United Nations. The angry family members of Lockerbie victims say that they'll be out in force to protest. Russ?
Bill Plant at the White House. Thank you. To the battle over health care now. The Senate's so-called Gang of Six, 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, reportedly is considering scaling back their plan to reduce its $900 billion price tag. No matter what it costs, many older Americans covered by Medicare, and there are 38 million of them, are afraid that they will pay the price. Here's Cheryl Atkinson.
At this rally today in Orlando, Florida, there were more fears that health care reform will lead to rationing. The event was arranged by cardiologists already facing cuts in payments from Medicare. The doctors say they'll have to ration and possibly deny care to elderly patients. Talk like that is fueling health care reform opposition among seniors.
Why can't the government leave us alone?
A CBS News poll shows 57% of the 65 and over crowd thinks their access to health care will diminish and their own costs will rise. At the heart of many fears is President Obama's proposal to find $300 billion in savings from Medicare over 10 years. He says he can do it without touching benefits.
We are going to make Medicare more efficient, guaranteeing today's seniors better benefits than they have right now.
On the benefit side, Democrats aim to reduce the so-called Medicare donut hole. That's where some patients pay the full cost of their prescription medicine until they've spent $3,600 out of pocket. Democrats would also eliminate co-payments for screenings and preventive services. Among the worries is $160 billion in cuts to private companies that provide Medicare Advantage insurance to millions of seniors. The president says cuts will come from company profits, but Republicans say the companies may raise premiums, cut benefits, or even drop out of Medicare, forcing seniors to change plans.
We just don't believe that the government will run it and can run it.
With so many seniors worked up over health care reform, some are taking things in stride, believing things will remain just as they are.
So the plug won't be pulled on me unless they go against my wishes.
As the debate drags on over the summer, the fact that there is no final plan to examine leaves a certain vacuum that's filled by uncertainty and fear. Russ?
Cheryl Atkinson in Washington, thank you. We have an update now on South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford, who disappeared for 5 days in June to visit his mistress in Argentina. The Associated Press reports Sanford failed to report 35 trips on private planes, as required by state law. Sanford's office says friends and political groups paid for those flights. The governor still faces an ethics investigation over his private use of state-owned aircraft. And the sports note of special interest to the legions of Chicago Cubs fans. The Tribune Company sold the team today, and for a record price, $845 million. The deal includes Wrigley Field. The new owner is the Ricketts family. Joe Ricketts founded the online brokerage Ameritrade. His son Tom, by the way, is a lifelong Cubs fan who met his wife in the bleachers at Wrigley Field. And up next on the CBS Evening News, they are fighting a war in some of the worst conditions anywhere. But these Marines are not complaining. President Obama today called Afghanistan's presidential election an important step forward for that country. Ballots are still being counted, and even partial results will not be known until next Tuesday. But challenger Abdullah and President Hamid Karzai are both claiming victory. If no candidate gets 50%, there will be a runoff. Chief Foreign Affairs correspondent Lara Logan has been reporting from Afghanistan all week. She's with the Marines of Echo Company. Their mission was to hunt down the Taliban in Helmand province so voters could get to the polls. They were not always successful. Turnout there was very low. But Echo Company is used to a challenge. More than 200 strong, the company served 8 tours in Iraq. This is their first in Afghanistan. They arrived 7 weeks ago. And as Lara tells us, they are operating in some of the worst conditions imaginable.
This is Combat Outpost Shop, home to Echo Company for almost 2 months now. From this old school building, Taliban fighters battled these Marines as they fought their way in here. Now it's the Marines that use this as a base to launch attacks on the Taliban.
When we first came here, this place had, it was disgusting. It had syringes on the ground, human waste. It was just absolutely filthy. And while it's not, the Taj Mahal right now, we have made this into a place where Marines can operate out of.
27-year-old Lieutenant Tompkins told us what it's like living here.
The heat, the dust, the mud, the canals, none of that goes away. There's no escaping it, and you just make your peace with it, I guess.
The Marines here live, eat and sleep in the dirt. They're on the very front line of the fight, so there's no barracks, no mess halls for hot meals. And when you get back to base, there's really nowhere to wash.
I haven't showered in almost 2 months now, so yes.
Yes, it would be nice.
Would be awesome.
Sergeant Walters spends his downtime working out, but there's no gym. You make do where you can.
If you think about it, we live in better conditions than about 2/3 of the world, so I still consider myself pretty fortunate.
The heat is relentless. Temperatures reach 120 degrees every day. Conditions here are about as rough as it gets, but you really don't hear the Marines complaining. Living hard is part of the Marine mentality, as long as they have what they need to fight and just enough to survive. Supplies mostly come by road. The much-anticipated logistics convoy brings some of what the Marines want to make life bearable.
Hopefully I got some cigarettes.
But what they want most of all, mail from home.
Pecco!
For many of these men, the hardest part is being so far from home. Sergeant Matthews already knows what he'll be telling his children.
I'm going to be telling the story for 40 years.
and I'm going to tell them it was rough. I'm going to tell them the people at the Chosen Reservoir, at Bellawood, at Vietnam had nothing on me. I'm going to tell them that all the time, even though they had it hard also. But I'm going to tell my war story.
Lara Logan, Combat Outpost Sharp, Southern Helmand.
And on the 214th day, he rested. 214 days into his presidency, Barack Obama headed off on his first vacation, leaving the White House aboard Marine One for Camp David, where he and his family will spend the weekend. Then on Sunday, as Randall Pinkston tells us, it's off to the Vineyard.
Martha's Vineyard has it all: beaches, bike riding, and a summer population that grows by almost 100,000 people, soon to include the first family.
But I love how you can walk past all the businesses and see the signs in the window. Everybody's welcoming the Obama family.
There are signs and T-shirts in at least 2 food groups. Beefy Obama treats for the dog and something a bit more spiritual for adults.
And we decided, how about a presidential?
Shopkeepers hope the presidential visit brings an end-of-summer economic boost.
Everything related to Barack Obama and the presidency is a hot seller here, whether it's a sticker or a T-shirt or a hat.
The Obamas will be staying at the Blue Heron Farm, where they could enjoy golf, a pool, a basketball court, a private beach, all on 28 acres, renting for up to $50,000 a week.
Presidential visits are nothing new for Martha's Vineyard, dating all the way back to 1874, when Ulysses S. Grant became the first sitting president to vacation here, in this cottage.
President Clinton came here 4 times while in office, but other presidents preferred something more rural. LBJ, a bit overdressed perhaps for horseback riding on his Texas ranch. George W. Bush clearing brush on his, while Ronald Reagan's ranch was in Santa Barbara, California. 2 presidents liked Georgia. Jimmy Carter played softball in Plains. Franklin Roosevelt swam in Warm Springs, while President Kennedy returned to Hyannisport as often as possible. Mr. Obama should feel right at home on the Vineyard. After all, he's from Hawaii, another island that knows a little something about tourists. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, Martha's Vineyard.
And coming up next this Friday evening, Steve Hartman hails a very special cab driver in tonight's Assignment America.
Assignment America is sponsored by Stainmaster Carpet. Find the Great Fall Fix-Up promotion at a retailer near you.
We end tonight with one very creative businessman. He has found a way to beat the competition with a unique pricing system. Steve Hartman now with Assignment America.
Some people are born entrepreneurs, and 46-year-old Eric Hagan is not one of them.
People love tacos.
He thought of starting a business delivering taco ingredients to people's homes.
And then they would put them together at the home.
After that,
Flavor Cube?
It was flavored ice cubes.
Right.
And perhaps the worst idea of all.
Basically what it would have been was a mobile bar.
Literally, a bar on wheels. Fortunately, Eric does have a day job.
Yep.
He works for the Red Cross, setting up blood drives in and around Burlington, Vermont. But it doesn't pay much, which is why Eric was determined to start some kind of business to offset his bills. And just a few weeks ago, it struck him.
I was watching the Financial Channel one day, listening to foreclosures and people losing their jobs, and the idea just popped into my head. A pay what you want taxi cab.
Recession Ride Taxi. Pay what you want.
Give me something.
One of his first passengers took him at his word and gave him this CD of a local artist. Nice for the ride, but it doesn't pay the rent.
Clearly, Eric fails to grasp some pretty fundamental business principles. Friends and coworkers worried that he would lose his shirt if he didn't have some kind of pricing structure. But Eric insisted that it didn't matter that he didn't know business, because he knew people.
It's about trust. And I think a lot of businesses today they forget about the trust in people.
When people tell Eric they can only pay so much, he believes and welcomes them.
I just know that somebody else will make up for it. So basically it evens itself out.
Call it socialized ground transportation.
Good to see you.
Although for Eric at least, it's also smart capitalism.
You wouldn't believe the people that I have that are so appreciative of this.
On the left is the going rate for a regular taxi in Burlington. On the right, what Eric has been averaging. As you can see, he's outpacing the competition, taking home about $6 more on every 3-mile fare.
Such a gentleman.
Eric insists people pay more because they like feeling empowered. I suggested they pay more because they don't like feeling embarrassed. To illustrate, I asked to do some role-playing. I'm the passenger at the end of a 100-mile trip.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, $6.
Have a good day.
Oh, that was like, have a good day. I heard it in your voice.
Eric says, in reality, he never even looks at the money till the passenger is gone.
Thank you very much.
Again, with Eric, it all comes back to trust. Try it, he says. You'll be pleasantly surprised.
I think it's like what America needs.
Not a bad tip. Steve Hartman, CBS News, Burlington, Vermont.
And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. Jeff Glor will be here tomorrow. I'll see you here on Sunday. And Katie is back in this seat on Monday. I'm Russ Mitchell in New York. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night.